All right, everybody, I've got 6:30. We'll call the regular meeting in the Common Council to order. We'll start with roll call.
Seth,
Here.
AJ,
Here.
Todd Kirking,
Here.
Emma. No. Todd Spaeth,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
John,
Here.
Tanya, Steve,
Here.
and Justin.
Here. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. All right, item 2 is approval of the January 13th, 2026 regular council minutes.
This is Todd. I approve the January minutes with no additions or corrections.
Todd Kirking, I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any additional additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything they wish to bring up? No? All right. Moving on to item number 4, first period for public comment. Any members of the public have anything they'd wish to bring up? Now would be the time. Nobody in the house here? Anybody online, Nate?
We got a few folks online, but it does not look like anybody's reaching to make public comment at this time.
All right. Move on to item number 5 then, operator license approvals.
We had a couple of them that went to public safety this last week. Cullen Hauge was a new one for Walgreens, took the class August 9th. And Mia Hasley is a new one that is for the Moonlighter Lab that is on the next agenda item. And they forwarded it with their approval.
This is AJ. Make a motion to approve the operator licenses.
Todd, I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, item number 6, discussion with possible action on Class B beer and Class C wine license for Moonlighter Lab LLC at 211 South Main Street, Suite A.
This also went to public safety last week, and it was forwarded with their approval pending the fire chief doing an inspection. He did do his inspection. There were a few items that they still need to fix, nothing that would constitute something that they couldn't have the license. But I would still say you'd probably want to do it contingent upon making sure that everything has been fixed that he requested to be fixed during his inspection. So this is for a Class B beer and Class C wine license at that location. And they forwarded, as I said.
Thanks, Lori.
I'd make a motion that we approve the Class B beer and Class C wine license for Moonlighter Lab contingent on the final approval from, was it the chief you said? Yeah.
This is AJ. I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 7, discussion with possible action on Class B beer and wine license for Fourth Stream for fundraiser at Masonic Lodge, 118.5 South Main Street on January 31st, 2026.
Again, this is a temporary license, both a beer and a wine, for their fundraiser that they will have at the Masonic Lodge, actually from noon to 5 on that day. It went to public safety this week and they forwarded it with their approval.
Ms. Tanya, I'll approve make a motion to approve the temporary Class B beer and wine license for Fourth Stream for the fundraiser at Masonic Lodge on January 31st.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any questions?
I think that was at the Temple Theater. It says Masonic Lodge, but it's at the actual Temple Theater, isn't it?
No, it's at the upstairs of
it
the
is
Masonic
upstairs.
Lodge.
Oh, I thought I understood it was, okay, so it's upstairs. of the temple.
Upstairs,
Okay,
correct.
that's what, it's okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Item number 8, discussion with possible action on Veterans Memorial Commission appointments. So I know I think we talked maybe about this or maybe
We
Yeah.
probably need to provide a little bit of context because this particular item never made it
I wasn't sure if it
further
got
beyond
this
Park
far.
and Rec. And Kale, if I get something wrong, feel free to jump up and help out. But essentially what's been going on in Park and Rec is that there are some decisions that need to be made regarding the Veterans Memorial. Nothing terrible, things regarding policy and some decisions on some of the stone plinths that are out there. And as we were looking through it, it came to our attention that there was a Vets Memorial Commission in our ordinances and per the agreement when we received that piece of property from the nonprofit who gave it to us, right? So there was this agreement said, we will give this to you, but you have to follow these rules. And one of those rules was establishing a Vets Memorial Commission. And that's been in place for a good long time, I think since the 90s, perhaps. Was in the 90s.
2006 is when they gave it to the city.
Sure. So 2006. And so when I started, I was kind of given direction by Boone, our former Park and Rec director. This is like, that commission sort of dissolved. It doesn't really exist anymore. Just follow the rules of how it's supposed to be and don't worry about it. And I said, oh, that's fine. But upon further deliberation, conversations with our city attorney and so forth, the Parks and Rec committee basically stated, really the appropriate thing to do is reestablish the Vets Memorial Commission. Maybe it doesn't need to be a regularly meeting body, but they could meet as needed. And so that is where we landed as a Park and Rec committee who oversees the Vets Memorial. And essentially, we're here tonight to hear what the mayor has for appointments and see if we can get that body moving. And then Kale and I collectively would help see that to get down to the decisions that we need to get made. Any questions?
Questions?
Okay.
All right. So, and I think the agreement has specified we have to have 2 council members, 2 veterans, and then a citizen member. And the citizen member can be a veteran, but they have to be a citizen at least. So we've got Todd,
Well, and I don't even think it says citizen. I think it's just member at large.
member at large. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
So I don't even think it
Maybe I
specifies
misunderstood
that.
So 2 council members would be Todd and Todd. They're all 3 veterans. Boone Stallsberg, spoke with him. He's agreed to do it. Steve Thompson, spoke with him. He's agreed to do it. And Carson LaBelle, I've spoke with him and he has agreed to do it. So those are the 5 that I would like to point.
Said 5?
Yeah.
Who are the councilmen?
Todd and Todd.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
I heard one Todd.
The Todds. So yeah. So does anybody have any questions or?
I really think we should have a woman on there.
And you forwarded that to me after I'd already established who I was going to have on there. And I apologize for that, but had I not
No.
gotten to that point, right. Yeah. Well, and we did ask you,
Me, yes,
Right.
you did. Thank you.
so
But I think I've on enough things.
I agree. But you also are a veteran and, so I.
And I have very
Right,
much interest in
Right.
this.
And we respect your position, but I
Thank you.
think Todd and Todd will represent it well, but
Well, if you
yes.
do it the way the ordinance is set up, one of them will just have a year anyway, right? They were kind of staggered.
I would assume so. I haven't seen exactly how
They were
terms are
staggered when
lined
they
up.
first started, and if you want to do that again, then I guess you guys would have to state that, but otherwise they were like 3-year terms, I
If you
believe.
stagger them, then they don't all leave at once.
Yeah, part of what we wanted the group to do as part of their efforts is to make a recommendation on any ordinance changes to their group, which is kind of odd. Usually we don't have groups make recommendations on how their group should be organized. That's usually up to the council to create those things. But the Park and Rec committee felt it was appropriate that as long as it's still congruent with the agreement that we had with the nonprofit group when we accepted the land, that it would be good for that group to also state, like, how should we organize? Do we need to meet on a monthly or quarterly basis, or we can just resolve to meet as needed? One of the other things that came up is, do we need define term limits on this? Or do we just say that, is there some other way that they would want to approach it? And because that was part of my concern with having another commission is you have another commission to maintain, right? And so maybe the vets commission, the people appointed to it have ideas about term limits, Cindy. And so I don't know if we want to decide that now or if we want to just say everybody's on for 3-year terms and they can decide if they want to set up staggered limits or whatever it may be. I don't know, but it's your call as a voting member, Cindy, if you want to pitch these two for a year and this, and because normally what we would do is split it up, right? Where this person would be on for 1, this person for 2, and then these 2 people for 3.
Right, and since there's council members on there, that can change in between there too. So if you're having staggered terms with council members, it's kind of difficult when you have staggered terms as well.
You wouldn't have to have the council members have staggered terms.
You still got to stagger them to start with if that's how you do it.
Okay.
Other discussion? Who do you have? Todd and Boone. So Carson LaBelle and Steve Thompson. Thompson? Mhm. Any?
Did you talk to them about like a term limit or like how long
No,
they
I
were?
basically alluded to what Nate said. I said, everybody asked questions and I said, I don't have a lot of answers, but we'll get you together and formed and we can hammer out some details at that point. And everybody was agreeable to that. So.
Is everybody familiar with it? I know sometimes it can be hard.
You have a question, Cindy?
Well, you asked if everyone's familiar. I know Carson LaBelle, I know that name,
Mhm.
but who is it? I think
So
who-
he attends
He's on
most of our.
He was on the library board.
Yeah, he's on the library board.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
He attends most of our city council meetings.
But he'd be very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Uh-huh.
we go. He'd be very good.
Right.
That's good.
And Steve attends all of our city council meetings also. Steve Thompson online. That's John's brother, for those that don't know. And he was here a few meetings ago and spoke with us. Everybody's familiar with Boone.
Do we need a motion to accept here?
We
Okay.
do.
This is Seth. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the committee members that the mayor has proposed for the Vernon Memorial Committee, Veterans
Veterans Committee,
Memorial
yep.
Committee Commission.
I would second it if you add staggered terms.
Amend the motion to add staggered terms.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'd like to amend the motion to accept the 5 with staggered terms.
You want to define what you'd like?
No.
No.
I mean, who would get a year and who would get 2?
Well, and just how many of what do you want? And then they can sort out who gets which terms.
Maybe there's a particular way you have to do staggered terms, Lori?
There isn't. You just need to let me know who you want as staggered to start with.
Can they meet and decide
That's
that?
what I thought that we were.
That's what I thought
you
also.
guys were doing.
Right.
And
Can't they decide that then?
That was the point of
Right.
what they were going to
Well, I mean,
meet
if
about.
we say staggered terms, then they can decide how to stagger the terms.
So I think I hear what you're saying, Cindy. So I'll throw out an idea. Your big thing is that you just want staggered terms of some type and you're not particular on who gets what.
Correct.
Okay. So if the group would give the authority at this point to provide staggered terms and allow the mayor to decide in speaking with the group who gets which term, right?
Right.
You could just make the call unilaterally and say, like, I've talked to Steve and Boone and they both want the 2-year term.
Right.
And and Carson wants the 1 and the other 2 get the 3.
Sure. And I guess what I'm asking is what would you like for terms? Do you want 2 1 years, 2 2 years, and a 3-year? Do you want 3 1 years, 2 2 years?
No,
No.
that would definitely be not good.
Right.
I
So
think
like,
it's one
Can-
year and that how it starts, whatever the ordinance says, to make it easy.
is it sensible that you They're all 3-year terms. They just start 1, 2, and 3, and then after the first rotation, everybody's on 3-year.
That's what eventually happens, but you have to start somebody
right.
out with less.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to know, I wanted to make sure whatever the spirit of what you're asking happens. I don't want you to say, I want staggered terms, and they say, okay, we're going to have 4 3-years and a 2-year, and you wanted 2 1-years, 2 2-years, and a 3-year or something of that
Yeah.
nature, right?
Whatever the ordinance says.
I don't think the ordinance says it.
Yeah, it says
It says
What-
3-year terms.
No, it has it staggered.
It does?
Mhm.
Hang tight. All right. Now, 244. Over on the horn. No. What was the, no fun in that.
Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Perfect. Do you need a motion to
That's-
change it all? Okay. I think we're good. Yep. Are you good with that amendment? All right. Any other discussion?
Accept that amendment.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, item number 9. Sorry. Item number 9 is discussion with possible action on economic development consultant.
Okay, I'm gonna give some preamble to this and then I'll invite up Andy Kurtz from Veerbecker. So for the 2025 budget, it was approved for me to receive some economic development support due to the number of projects that were coming at us, and particularly due to the fact that some years ago, Jeff Golke, who had been the economic development consultant for VDA, had passed away and sort of left them with a sort of a vacancy. We had filled that with Veerbecker, and it worked out pretty well. And then that was actually 2024. So then in 2025, what happened is that in conjunction with the chamber, there was an idea to move to CETA, which is Community Economic Development Associates. Some of you may have met or had dialogue with James Hankey. The idea there was to have one person that would split time between us and the chamber. They would work for the chamber 4 days a week as their executive director, and they would work for the city 1 day a week as basically my delegate to help me run down economic development projects, meet with developers, get them to submit full proposals, work on them on detailed language on MOUs and development agreements and all sorts of stuff. Really time intensive and gets into the nitty gritty of, you know, I need an easement or I need this or I need that, right? And so that was the role that James played, and he did a good job through 2025 in fulfilling that role. Unfortunately, what happened in 2025 is that the chamber side of things, the 4 days a week where somebody was supposed to work as the executive director, really never came to fruition. It never got off the ground. They made it a couple of attempts as an executive director, but I think by April or May, if I'm not mistaken, they sort of cut ties with CETA and said, we're going to hire executive director the traditional way and on our own. And so essentially what that meant for us is that 2 things. One, we lost one of the value propositions of going with CETA, which was to have that synergy and connection piece and collaboration piece with the chamber so that they would have their ears to the ground on our local business community and would be able to, through that means, identify if there's anybody in the community who's ready to step up and maybe have their own brick and mortar building or, you know, whatever it may be. So there was, Justin and I had been in conversations with the chamber and other economic development agencies in the area about like, how can we work more together? And this collaboration with the chamber through CETA was a way for us to be more connected. But unfortunately, it didn't work out on the chamber end of it, and so we lost sort of that value proposition of having that connection piece. The other thing that happened is that we were able to take advantage of an economies of scale. When you work with CETA, it's much more cost efficient if you're hiring them for 5 days a week versus 1 day a week. Okay? And by them linking up with the chamber, we were able to get James or a CETA representative for 1 day a week, but at the 5 day a week rate. So it was a really good thing. And when the chamber went away, CETA was very gracious and I think appropriate in honoring our 5-day rate, even though we were still only using them for 1 day. Okay. But that only lasted through 2025, which means going into 2026 here, we were going to see a significant increase in the cost. So this is probably more information than everybody knows, but I just want to let you know how we got here and why I'm asking at this point for you to consider a change in who we're doing business on. And so who I have here tonight is Andy Kurtz from Veerbecker. Oddly enough, his last name is Kurtz, and I just realized that he's taking over for Kurt Mukau when Kurt finally retires, which I think is a very nice transition. I don't know, that probably has come up multiple times already. And so I'm going to ask Todd if he can pass these around. This is just Andy's background, and ask you to just maybe introduce yourself and you can share a little bit more about yourself. The right one. Here you
There
go.
we go. Good evening, everyone. As Nate said, my name is Andy Kurtz. I am the Planning and Community Development Manager at Veerbecker Associates. I've been with Veerbecker 3 years. And as Nate mentioned, basically helping Kurt not retire. He wants to retire, but we're keeping him around as long as we possibly can. He says hi, by the way. So Kurt has been working with you guys for a number of years. And part of this process is to transition that account relationship from Kurt to myself. Prior to joining Veerbecker, I was the village administrator in Marathon City for 10 years. Marathon City is just west of Wausau, Wisconsin. We like to say that Wausau was a suburb of Marathon. They didn't like that much, but we said it anyway. And prior to being the administrator, I was on the board for 5 years. So I've got a lot of governmental experience, a lot of experience in doing the things exactly that Nate had outlined a little bit earlier in terms of economic development, a lot of background with TID, a lot of working with developers, doing development agreements, memorandums of understanding, as well as just contacting them and chasing them down, which sometimes can be a challenge. And Nate obviously has a lot of things going on. So we've put together a proposal that would essentially provide Nate some of that off the bench assistance to do some of those things that will make his life a little bit easier and are really things that we have a lot of experience in doing. Myself personally with Marathon, and then corporately with Veerbecker. As Nate had said, we had been doing this for you previously. So we're really picking up that service kind of where we had left off. With that, if there's any questions about the service that we're looking to provide or my background, I'd be happy to answer that.
I have a question. Are you going to be a 1 day a week type?
So essentially what we've worked out is 5 hours a week on average. Given the ebbs and flows of economic development, there'll be weeks where maybe I'm doing 15 hours a week, and some weeks where I'm doing 3 hours a week. It all depends on what's going on. On average, we figured it out at about 5 hours a week, put the contract together with that. If Nate calls on Wednesday and I've already got 5 hours in, I'm not going to avoid picking up the phone. We essentially are going to provide the services that we need to, average that out, and then at the end of the year, figure out where we are hours-wise. And then if we need to look at a possible adjustment in 27, we would do so. But it's our goal ultimately to provide that level of service that Nate needs to fill kind of that void or offload some of those things to make his life a little bit easier. And again, we've got to figure it about 5 hours a week, but I know nothing gets done during Christmas typically. Sometimes the week between Christmas, around Thanksgiving, there's this holiday called deer season that a lot of people take advantage of. So there's going to be, I think, an average of about 5 hours that we've talked about in terms of need.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Just because I haven't been here for the last few years, how is this the same or different than the work that we've always done with Veerbecker?
Yeah. So, when we picked up Veerbecker's contract, right, and then it became a CETA contract, it's it's been a growth and transition. Like we used Kurt more sparingly originally, and then when we lost Jeff and he passed away, we brought in Kurt more consistently, and it was more on
Right,
a,
I'm used to
Yeah.
only working with.
yeah.
Kurt for these
So
things,
and yeah, I'm I guess trying to work my way up to your
Yeah, yeah.
question. So it was more on a time and labor. There wasn't like a contract agreement. We would just use Kurt as we needed him, and then he would bill us for it. And what we found over the years is that in 21, 22, 23, we had projects going on, but not to the degree that we do now. There's a lot in front of us, especially with the Hanson Farm. That's when it really went from here to here. Just trying to put together a concept plan for that, interface with Sarah and Chad regarding zoning and engineering, plus work with 4 to 5 developers on their individual needs and how it all pieces together is really how we got to the point where we're looking at more of a steady contract versus an as needed time and labor.
Okay.
And this would be the 3rd year that we're doing it. It started in 2024 and now it's 24, 25, 26.
Thank you.
So what I'll put on screen here, and we were working on this just today, is somewhere in here, is this maybe it? There it is. The scope of services. You'll notice that Veerbecker went through a little bit of rebranding, but the form is still generally the same. I will note that under project understanding, Andy and I noticed that it still says 8 hours per week in the preamble. It's correct everywhere else, but he did bring an updated copy, and that 8 that's shown right here has been reduced to 5. Okay. And essentially what we'd be looking at is 5 hours a week on average for the extent of the year. And the total buy-in would be $25,000. Last year and this year we budgeted for $23,000, and that was split up among the TIDs. Part of it used to be in the general fund, but and we went through this during budget season, if you'll remember, because of budget restrictions on the general fund, in order to free up money, everything was moved to the TID, which is appropriate because all the development projects that we're doing at this point are all TID related, with the majority, I would say 98%. So I feel comfortable that these projects are being run off the TID. And the one, I'm trying to even think, yeah, there might be one that's not right now, but we have, if you were here for public or finance and personnel, we have somewhere in the range of 10 different economic development projects going on concurrently, which is why there's a need for some of this support. Conversely, what I'll note is that if we stayed with CETA, their bill to us would have been $32,000 a year. Now, granted, that would have been for 8 hours versus 5. However, I truly believe that we are going to be more efficient working with Veerbecker than with CETA, because we also have the advantage of we do a lot of engineering work with Veerbecker. And so when they're in the office talking to each other already, it saves us from having to connect Matt Mukow with James. Instead, it's Matt and Andy are already naturally connecting, right?
I
So I
can
think
hit his office with a snowball from my office, so it's relatively close.
So
How do you figure if you end up going over the allotted 5 hours per week? How does that work?
You will be billed $25,000 for this year. What will happen with any overage hours is Rebecca will absorb that. We value the relationship that we have with the city. We do a lot of work with you. As Matt said, or as Nate said, we are going to be very efficient in what we do because we have that connectivity between Matt and myself. So if there is some overage of hours at the end of that period of time, that's something that we'll absorb. We're not going to send you an invoice for it. We are going to invoice you on a monthly basis for the remainder of the contract. So if, like I said, if there's 30 hours that we do in one month and 13 in another month, you're going to get the same bill from us on a monthly basis. Ultimately, when we get to that budget time in 2027 and we start looking at it, then we would want to discuss, okay, the load that we had was a little bit larger based on demand, based on success, and therefore we would look to talk about it at that point. But we're going to do a $25,000 fixed fee contract for the term of the engagement. We figure an average of 5 hours. Hopefully we're really close to that. If we're a little bit over though, that's something we'll absorb.
And we did have conversations in addition to that, and I did this with James as well, is it's just about dialogue, right? I would say to James, like, James, I feel like I'm really working you hard right now and that I've sent you a lot of stuff this week. How are you doing on, like, am I over, like, because especially in a new relationship, you want to have that sort of pulse check. And I said the same thing to Andy. It's like, we just need to be in communication. If ever I'm just overwhelming you and it's beyond what the expectations were entering into the relationship, then we just need to be able to have that conversation. But as you said, part of the value of this is setting up a not to exceed amount so that it should really reduce the opportunity for surprises.
I'm all for giving Nate extra help because he does a tremendous amount of things. Of course, the Lori does too, but so we're ready for motion?
I think so, unless
Okay.
you have more, Nate.
Yeah, no, the only thing I'll say, and to Cindy's point, is I know 25,000 is a lot. I get it, and I know when we're talking about the TIDs and the stress that's on, like, because of the landfill and all the needs for TID 6, I get that 25,000 is a lot of money. But we are at a moment here, we have a lot of opportunity in front of us, and if we start getting some of these businesses planted, this money should pay for itself, right? Because we're going to start getting more increment if we get a hotel sat, more increment if we get a $2 million business, that's $32,000 a year in tax increment, right? So I think it's a good investment. I know it's a lot of money, but the goal here is to pay for it and then some. And we got to strike while the iron's hot when it comes to economic development. And this will also help us be more particular about what we want to see. So, like business park, there's a lot of design guidelines, right? And zoning regulations, and that's where Andy can come in and help people understand that, right? That takes some time to talk them through. So not only do I think we'll be able to get through the quantity that we want to, but we'll also get higher quality projects because there'll be more attention to detail.
I'm wondering if we can get a regular, and I don't know what regular means, monthly, quarterly update on economic projects, like more specifics than we have a bunch of stuff out there. I mean, I'm sure there's probably, you don't want to talk about something until it's happening, but is that possible that we can get more information?
There's probably a way to approach it so that we're not counting chickens before they hatch.
I guess my point is I'm curious about what kind of businesses are wanting to come here, what you're hearing from people about why they choose to come and not come. I mean, I feel like we never get that kind of information here and at the council level, and because there's, the VDA and you're having conversations. So I'm curious if we can get more of an update about those kinds of things.
We can certainly talk about that. When I was in Marathon, I did do an update similar to that. To Nate's point, some of the discussions that you have with interested parties may not amount to anything.
Of course.
Some of them are confidential. You're actively negotiating agreements and things of that nature. So, as those things progress, the appropriate committees are brought into that information and asked to make decisions and help approve things. But I think there's something that we can potentially come up with that is a high level overview of here's the opportunities we're working on, or a number of, here's the potential value of those ones that are more fully baked, where we've done an MOU or we've done a development agreement. We can provide some details on that type of business and the valuation and timeline. The timeline's also important as you're talking about your tax increment district. Sooner the better for getting development on the ground and doing things. So I think between Nate and I, we can come up with something that isn't cumbersome because there will be a lot of information. But just a summary of, we've got 10 opportunities, 5 of them we had contact with, total value, something like this, types of business,
And honestly, yeah, thank you. And honestly, some of it for me is like, I'm curious, who was interested and then changed their mind, or like what kinds of businesses. I just think that it can help us understand what attracts people to Viroqua and what, what makes, why do they make other decisions? And so it's more like the kind of businesses that are looking to come here than necessarily, not any more detail than that.
Yeah, I think we sort of come up with something like that and, opportunities don't pan out for a number of reasons. In my experience, most of it comes down to financing. It's not that they don't want to do it, it's that they can't convince a bank to necessarily let them do it.
Sure,
But,
yeah.
for those things that we can share, and sometimes you can't communicate that. But for those opportunities that we can, if it just wasn't the right fit or, they couldn't get a building designed or they came back and the building was $10 million and they thought it was 3. That happens sometimes. So yeah, I think between Nate and I, we can sort of come up with something that I think will
Thank you.
address the need you're looking for.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion then to go with Veerbecker for our economic development consultants.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Do a roll call.
You want to add that 25,000 in there in your
Oh,
motion?
I suppose I should, yeah. Not to exceed 25,000 for the first year.
You're okay with a second on that?
Yes.
Seth?
Aye.
AJ?
Aye.
Todd Kirking?
Aye.
Emma?
Aye.
Todd Spath?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tanya?
Aye.
And Steve?
Aye.
Thank you. You bet. All right, moving on to item number 10, discussion with possible action on Hanson Farm project change order for landfill trench.
Okay. Okay, so if you remember from our last meeting, we approved the concept of doing the trench work at the landfill or north of the landfill on the Hanson property. And we talked about adding it as a part of the Hanson property contract. And so that's essentially what you see here. I believe this was in the packet, correct, Lori?
I sent it out with the additional bills.
Okay, so Mike was out last week, and so we were catching up with each other today, and there was actually not Mike, Matt caught up with us today with Dave Bean, and there was one additional thing, which is line 12, the very, very bottom here, if I can zoom in. And when they originally put the numbers together, they didn't have any bonding insurance that's required as a part of it. So as the project expands, they're supposed to include that. And then there is some overhead for organizing, getting like the pipe fusing machine and whatnot. So there is $4,193 more than what you saw in your packet. But I think that it is appropriate, all of the line items here. We did speak with them, Matt and I, and felt like it made sense. So here's the change order. If you have any questions, please let me know. But again, this is what we had talked about at our last meeting. They actually are actively working on this, so, and making good progress, actually. So looking for approval to approve the change order for contract A.
Sarah, before,
I make a motion, we approve the change order for the Hanson Property Development, Contract A, the amount of
That's right.
$143,968.
AJ, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
AJ?
Aye.
Todd Kirking?
Aye.
Emma?
Aye.
You raise your
She's
hand.
waving.
Todd Spath?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tanya?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And Seth?
aye.
All right. Item number 11, discussion with possible action on TRC contract for landfill gas system design.
Okay, so this is going to be a fairly large conversation about and information about our next steps in the landfill, but don't feel there's a need to approve the change order tonight. And Mike is here with us, I believe. Are you here there, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Uh-oh. Maybe Mike was, oh, no, I can see that I can see that you're unmuted and you're there. Well, I can start working on it, but Mike, I think you're going to need to adjust your audio somehow. Okay. I'm assuming I'm getting text messages. Nope, not him. Okay. Well, I'll leave my phone out just in case there was a phone call that I missed just recently. But in any case, didn't look like it was him. Okay, so where we're at in the landfill process is that we need to start working on our design. And in order to know how much engineering that requires, we need to pick a path, so to speak. And so that's what the change order that Mike has here for us. Let me just make sure I can pull it up here. I think it's this. Nope, yep, there we go. So this is the change order that we would have for our contract. And what he did was, for the purposes of looking at numbers, have a cost for engineering for doing an active gas system. But as you can tell, under the task 1, Mike says he's working on it. Under task 1, it talks about like doing a preliminary engineering design and engineer costs for a passive and an active system. So if you remember, and Mike can talk to you about this when he manages to get on, but he certainly feels like a active gas system is the way that we're going to solve the problem. But he also wants us to understand that there is options here, right? So we can look at a passive landfill gas system, not necessarily feeling as confident that it's going to get us to the end product, but we could install something that would also be used and could take us to an active system. But as with anything where you take steps like that, that's going to cost us more money, right? Like, so it may not cost us, we'll still be able to use the investment that we use for a passive gas system, but we're going to end up having a second contract. They're going to have to be, connecting everything and putting things together for the active system. So in the end, it's not going to just be a true sum of those two parts. We'll end up having a higher total if we sort of take this slower approach. However, there is a chance that is going to solve our problem. There's just not a ton of confidence behind that as being the last step. So, as Mike keeps doing things, I will keep working on thankfully, I know what he was presenting today.
Sarah, can you hear me
we
now?
did some really rough ideas to get our thoughts on the process and how we might be going forward. And I will say that when I apply for funding, they always want to see what are your options, right? You always go like A, B, C, or D, and then you're like, nope, don't like that option. So Mike was going through the process, and we had talked about like how much would it cost to just get rid of all of it? And Mike had some ideas at first, but he put some numbers together, and it's like, this is not doable. It is not doable for us to just move the waste to a new location. So that's why you see that 6 to 100 million. Right? A very costly solution. So really what we're looking at is either an active gas system or a passive gas system. Oh, he's coming back in again. Maybe we'll hear from him now. So an active gas, I think I hear you. Did I hear you? No, maybe I just was hopeful thinking. Okay. So an active gas system, we've talked a little bit about that before. That's when we actually have like a blower that's pulling the gas out of the landfill. So it's like actively sucking in the gas, which obviously is often what is put in scenarios and is usually, you're going to get what you need out of those systems, right? And then he's got a few things here about like what we would need under those scenarios. And so essentially a 70-foot radius of influence and a 50-foot radius of influence just talks about how close together we're going to put these little wells, because what we're going to do is take the landfill and we're going to basically put wells in, that's our straws, so to speak, into the landfill, and then we're just gonna suck the gas out. And so it's like, how close do we need them? And when in talking with him today, he's like, really, it's probably a blend of the two of them. So in some locations where we find more gas, we'll probably put more. If we find less gas, we'll probably put less. So there's probably somewhere in that ballpark. So the gist of it, though, is that it's not a small project, right? We're still in the $1.2 million to $1.4 million range.
Sarah, can you hear me
I
now?
say $2.2 million to $2.4 million range. That's a big difference. Okay, sorry. I've been thinking about this next one, and I'm also not feeling very well. So a passive landfill gas system, though, is in that order of $1 million less, right? So we would be doing similar things, but instead of having something that actively pulls the gas out, it would just be doing more of similar of what we're currently doing, meaning we're just letting the gas go into the atmosphere. So at this point, the difference between what we've been doing now and what that would look like is that in the current passive gas system, we're using a trench network. And so there's like the underground, everything's supposed to be accumulating and moving through to the vents. Whereas in a passive gas system, that would be similar to the active gas system. In both of these cases, we're actually like drilling points all through the landfill and using like the ability for that to pull gas in as like the radius or how close we would put them together. So, all in all, again, no decisions necessarily need to be made here, but what it does change. So he's going to need to go through this and talk to you about these options and let you think about how to go about things. But in terms of our change order here, so he figures there's about a $20,000 difference in design costs, because in a passive gas system, again, we're just drilling these holes into the landfill wells and letting it gas.
Well-
Whereas an active gas system, now we have electrical out there and we have these blowers and we're needing to do like more valve work interconnecting all of these points because they all have to come to where that blower is. So
Hello.
it's really unfortunate that Mike's not being able to talk, but maybe we can come back to it if he ends up coming in to the conversation. But that's essentially what we were going to present on tonight, is just not a decision, but keeping you in the loop of what we're going to have to start talking about. And we should approve next week. Sorry. Hey, Mike, are you able to say something? Just we're testing something out here. I wonder if Emma.
Emma, can you give us another effort at speaking in the microphone here?
Can you hear me?
No, not her.
We lost them both.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear Emma.
Thanks, Emma. We got you now.
We're just wondering, Mike, if there was something with the audio within the room here. Okay, well,
I think you did a great job, Sarah. Can I ask you a question?
yeah, absolutely.
Is
I'll
the
do my best to
72
answer it.
Did you say the 72,400 was for the active system or the passive system? That one that's up there.
So
Estimated
this
cost.
is the design fees that we have accumulated in total.
Oh, that's where we
Throughout
are
the
at.
project,
Oh.
right? So the first one we were doing was just like trying to get a handle on what the heck we were involved with. Then we had the trench excavation. So this is them doing the work that we did that first version. And so this was his cost to basically take the next step. And again, it was kind of like the cart before the horse. Do we talk about what to do so that we know how much the design would be, or do we start finding a path that we want to take with design, and then able to approve like the precise amount that he would be looking for design fees. So, again, you know, the real conversation is starting to ponder the idea of, do we want, obviously, if we were to look for a passive gas system, it's also going to take us more time to get to the end. Meaning, if we do the passive gas system and it's successful, great, we'll be seeing results this year. But if we needed to say, okay, we did establish this isn't enough, we're probably talking about not putting in the active system until late next year, possibly 2027, right? So time frame does come into play here about like how fast are we, what time frame are we willing to look at in terms of getting things done? And it sounded like from Mike's conversation with the DNR today that they were willing to let us walk through this process because we are doing something and improving the situation. But again, that slower path is going to cost us more money if we end up with an active system. So, and I said to Mike, one of the things we need from you tonight is your expert opinion on what you're, you know, how strongly do you feel about one or the other? And unfortunately, he can't really speak to that. But Mike's general indication is that we're really going to end up with an active system. So it's just something to food for thought.
What about the maintenance of the active gas system and the electrical?
Absolutely. It is
is
an
there a lot of-
operation now.
Yeah.
That is certainly the downside because not only are we seeing capital costs, but we're also seeing continual
Right.
operational costs.
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously the amount of time that we're in that is dependent on how long the gas ends up doing what it's doing. So that was, and then we get into some conversations about that, about like how we set the design of the system up.
Hello?
I do hear you. Is there two blowers or one blower? If there's two, you know, we're paying for two, but it also allows us to like only do what's necessary, right, for each side. All right, Mike, I tried my best. Feel free to put us at whatever point you think we should review or.
Well, I think you did a good job. Sorry, everybody. I don't know what I did to get it to work, and I don't know why it didn't work in the beginning. But yeah, Sarah kind of explained it. And the numbers in the engineering probable cost, we have a 30% contingency for the active gas system. That is in part, so that comes out to almost $500,000. So that leads to a little bit of the so in that cost, we haven't figured out what is it going to take to get a power source for the blowers and things like that, just due to the lack of time. So, you know, we have a fairly large contingency on these numbers that, depending on how things go, it may not all be needed, but as we get further into the design and we can nail down certain things, then we can refine our costs so that it's not, you know, I don't have to have this 30% contingency on our number. But there are, you know, certain things that we just, until we actually do the design, we don't know how big a blower it's going to be. If we're going to have one blower, two blowers, we kind of talked about that before, those type of things. But I think, Sarah, you summarized it pretty good as far as, you know, we can go with a passive system, but if we do a passive system, and that would probably be something installed this year, and we'll find out this year that it works or doesn't work. You know, the passive attempts that we've tried have not worked to date. And I'm a little leery that if it turns out it doesn't work, we probably won't be able to convert it to an active to the following year. And what does that do with the whole development and things of that nature? So there's that kind of risk reward with going with a a passive system. So, but I do realize it's a big dollar amount and some thought has to be, some people need to just think about it, and if questions come up, relay them on to Sarah, and then I can kind of get answers to everybody before the next meeting. And kind of fill in blanks as far as some questions people may have.
Mike, I have some questions. There was a time, I think, where it was thought that barometric pressure affected the rates of gas, like how it outflowed out of the landfill. Has that been determined to be like the cause of different rates of?
The barometric pressure and the gas that we are seeing do not seem to be, there's not a correlation that I have been able to determine.
Okay.
We've looked at, is it possibly something to do with the karst topography and the way the wind's blowing, temperature. It doesn't seem to be an environmental factor. One thing we have, I have discovered in doing one of the test pits in the area of the sedimentation basin is there is a very clean, fine sand underneath the landfill that is very porous. Gas is building up in the landfill and it's basically just pushing out through this easy pathway and it's traveling a long distance. There's nothing impeding it from moving laterally. So its path of least resistance right now is to go laterally.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Also, I know there was a time where you said that if we made it an active system, it could turn or aerobic versus anaerobic. Is that?
So that goes into the 75-foot versus the 50-foot radius. The closer you put the wells together, the less draw you have to put on the wells. And if you think about it, the screened interval is going to be about 10 to 15 feet below the surface. And if you put a big vacuum on it to go out 75 feet, you got to put that same vacuum as being applied vertically. So do you start pulling in through the final cover, the clay final cover, and drawing oxygen into the landfill? So by shrinking the radius of influence down, you can pull on, have a smaller pull at more points, thus less likely to draw oxygen into the system.
Okay. And then if we install an active system and we determine that it is, like, let's say, going aerobic, can it act as a passive system or is it always going to be an active system?
So we've had some systems where we've had them as active systems and then over time have been able to you can either turn off a well because each well will, each straw, as Sarah called it, you can you'll have individual valves on each one. So if there's an area where more gas is being generated, you can pull more vacuum on that well and you can shut that well completely off or mostly off. So each well will be tuned or balanced based on the amount of gas that's being generated. And that's how you control the gas, but prevent oxygen from getting pulled in. So it's a matter of monitoring the well system once it's installed.
If we got to a certain point where we were still getting small amounts of gas, but not enough that we needed to use the active system, can we turn the blowers off, so to speak, and let it vent?
Yes, so you'd be able to turn the blower off and then you could either disconnect the hose so there'll be a flexible hose that connects a header pipe to the well. Just take that hose off and you can let it vent to the atmosphere. Probably for long term, you do more modifications so that it vents higher and higher up off the ground. But if you wanted to do a test and say, we're going to test it for 3 months and see if we can now run it as a passive system, say in 2 years or 5 years, you can do that fairly easy.
Is it your recommendation then that we do the 50-foot radius of influence?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. Depending, like on the west end of the west landfill, we're not seeing that much gas over there. Same thing with the south side of the west landfill. We're not seeing that much gas. We are seeing some, but so you can maybe go with a bigger radius of influence in those areas.
I think Todd had some questions. Do you have some?
Well, that he kind of answered it right there, because I remember at one of the last meetings that there were some areas that weren't nearly as much gas escaping.
Right.
Mike, are the wells that are utilized for the passive the exact same wells that would be utilized for the active? The difference would be with the active, they're connected via lateral pipe and obviously the blower portion of it, but is the wells that are used the exact same?
The pipe in the ground is basically the exact same. Yes. The pipe, so you do a boring, go down, put a pipe in the ground that's perforated. The only thing that if we want to go, if we want to have a passive system first and then go active later, the one drawback is gas rises, so it should be rising up to the bottom of the clay cover. And in an active system, you want to have a solid pipe that goes deep enough into the landfill so that you don't have a short circuiting where it just goes right, it starts pulling oxygen in the cover. So in a active system, you'd have your screened interval deeper than you would in a passive, because a passive, you'd want to capture all that gas that's rising up in the waste column and collect that gas and have that vented as well. So that's really the difference, is trying to figure out where you screen the well, where the pipe is perforated versus a solid wall pipe. So that if going from active to passive, the screen would be deeper in the landfill in an active system than in a passive system. But right now, based on the drawings, there's supposed to be like a sand layer, which in our work out there, I haven't seen. And there's a series of pipes that are within that sand layer connected to 5 to 7 vents. And that was the original system used to basically passively vent the landfill. That is not working. So what we would do with that is we'd cap those off with an active system, and then we could open those back up with a passive system and try and capture the gas that it is in the upper portion of the landfill. But right now, that system does not appear to be, especially in the east landfill, does not appear to be working. Whether it's watered out or it's just filled up with gunk over, soil over time, I'm not sure.
I know it probably isn't apples to apples. Obviously, Sarah said that if we take the passive route, it isn't going to be like, no, we just add the remaining balance on to get it active. I was just curious if we could have those rough numbers of whether it's 30% more to change from what was initially a passive to an active versus being active right away, just for the due diligence of seeing it. But I mean, obviously, we're gonna lean to your expertise on what needs to accomplish this, but it'd be nice to see those actual numbers.
Okay, I don't know that. I don't have a number I feel comfortable giving you at this point in time. But I can pull something together. I mean, you're gonna have a remobilization charge. You won't end up tying into all the passive wells, so some of them you'll have to cap off. And those passive vents I'd probably have them venting about 10 feet in the air, so you'd have to cut them down. So there is a cost to it. But I can get back to you on what I think that cost would be.
I appreciate the extra work. I just think it is sensible to at least see that to help us eliminate any thought of going that direction.
Understood. That's why I wanted to kind of put these numbers in front of you. And there are some spreadsheets that I've also provided, Excel spreadsheets that I've provided Sarah, that has a bigger breakdown of that $2,226,000. You know, we assume that roughly, so the two landfills, each one is about 7 acres. So you got about 14 acres of landfill cover. We assume that we're going to disturb about 50% of that. Is that, can we do less than that? Possibly. So there's definitely some wiggle room in the estimate, but it's always easier to give a number and then whittle it down than have it keep going up and up and up.
I have a
And,
question.
nope,
You done? Just one quick question. I think you said that if we started with the passive, that's this year, and then we'd have to wait to see if it worked, and so then we wouldn't get started on an active until 2026 or 2027. If we went with the active right away, would that be done this year? Okay.
The only caveat I would have on that would be if there's a long lead time on a blower. Otherwise, all the pipe is readily available. The blower is, not something that's necessarily sitting on the shelf, but the lead time I don't think would be over 6 months. So yes, it should be done early fall, I would think, depending on when we get approval and approval from the state.
Can I ask about funding? Like, is there
favorite
any
topic.
grant monies or
Yeah, I've been trying. I've talked to the EPA, brownfields people, which are sort of like a subset of the Superfund site people. I've talked to local DNR. I've talked to a lot of people. I've also tried to utilize our political representatives. Often give a lot of help. They'll Brad Pfaff's office or Tammy Baldwin's or whomever's, Van Orden's office. They'll kind of see what they can find for us. No one has really come up with a lot. And that's where I had been originally. I do have 2 leads, but they are truly leads. And I am struggling with one that I thought was looking better than it seemingly is. So there's the CDBG program, which is through the DOA, the state DOA program. As we get further and further into nailing that down, there's a lot of things about not qualifying for certain types of benefits and the timing of it is not great. So I have been avidly working on that, like every single day, pushing that one. And we need to move quickly if we're able to apply. I'm nervous that even if we're able to apply, it's not going to meet the timeframes, because in that case, the standard program wants us to not be able to start construction until late fall, possibly December. So that is an aspect of it, but I'm not letting that stop me quite yet. So I'm trying to sort of fess that all out. And there's one other avenue with them I pursued to a certain point, but I think we may be able to try again and then ask for help from our political offices, because sometimes they change answers. So crossing my fingers there. The USDA, I have spoken with them. They have a program that would cover it. And so we could certainly look at loan funding, but they just don't have a lot of grant funding in that pool. And so they said, even if you qualified, it would be pretty insignificant in terms of this number. So those are the best things I have been able to find. I have talked to everyone multiple times. So I did do this originally in the beginning, and I thought maybe now we have something, but we just don't fit into what they're looking for, whether it be that we are a contributor, whether we were the contributor or a significant contributor to what's there. That often puts us in a different pot, because we're not like trying to clean up a site that DuPont or somebody came in and contaminated. And then the other part is that the actual landfill site itself is not what we're developing. So that in the brownfields ideas kind of just take us out of the running. And that is, the EPA has a program for brownfields, and so does the DNR. And everybody keeps sending me to everybody else, like, oh, you should, talk to these folks. And it's just not been great, unfortunately. But I haven't given up hope completely, and I'm working really hard on trying to convince people of things and using the tools that I know how to use to maybe change their answers a little bit, but it's not a slam dunk. That is definitely for sure. And Mike's been helping me. He helped me in the beginning too, trying to get things rolling and connections, and yeah. And I was even talking to Vera Becker about like, maybe you could give it a go for me too. But yeah, we don't fit nicely into any category. And
this definitely probably isn't the place for the conversation, but is there anything, I mean, our issue isn't a unique enough situation where it qualifies for any research or like investigative scenarios where a university, and that land we couldn't, develop it as a solar panel field. So then if it changes, it opens the door to other
right.
I
tried that with the brownfields people. I was like, what if we just put a walking path through it? And now it's because it's actually not a terrible spot to connect to. And we certainly can pursue that. Sometimes what ends up happening is the time frame. But I don't know, Mike, are you aware of any research-based opportunities there?
No, unfortunately, so many communities have these small landfills that are problematic. That there's,
I figured it would be the reason you have experience. We weren't first off. But.
I mean, the city of Madison has got them all over the city, and we're doing work with Ripon and Algoma and some of the old county sites, and it's not just in Wisconsin. They're all over the place. And I work with the big boys like Waste Management, and when they did a lot of acquisitions, they bought the city of Brookfield's old landfill, and now they're on the hook and not the city of Brookfield. So unfortunately, Waste Management didn't see value in your landfill to buy it from you.
So that being said, though,
Touche.
I am hoping that like the combination of all of our situation may present a case for being more unique than maybe your general situation. So I I would hope that we have something there, but you know, we're not the only people that have ever asked for a gas migration system.
Thank you for your work on it.
Yeah,
both
of
of you.
course.
I guess I have one more question about the DNR as far as like, is the DNR, they're viewing this as like we're taking appropriate action and we're not running the risk of incurring any fines or anything?
No, Mike might be better answer. I think they would love us to have this resolved already. And they want us to have full speed ahead, but they also understand that there's certain limitations, right? Like this, we need to talk to you about it. You need to be able to process it. We need to figure out how we're going to finance it. Mike needs to design it. We need to get a permit from them. So there's just like there's steps that they, even though if they would love us to be done tomorrow, we can't necessarily do that. Mike, you've talked to Colin more recently.
Yes, so I talked to Colin today, and basically the DNR stance is per the code, you have 30 days to implement a remedial action. Well, that 30 days has been long since passed, and even today when I talked to Colin, I said, well, I just want to give you an update on what we're doing, and he's like, yeah, I haven't been putting you at the top of my list because I want to give you guys more time, but please note that I have people I have to report to. So they're gonna want something, but right now, the people above Colin at the DNR are not harping on them. So it's, you know, there's a little bit of time, but you don't have a lot of time. You got to keep showing like we're doing that we're making progress, we're moving the ball, we're, you know, continuing to move the process forward. It's just takes time. And right now the main contact is understanding of that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
I was wondering if we could get a copy of this sheet. Kind of got a lot of information on there.
Yeah, we're looking at that. I don't know if you can see it, Mike, the
Yes.
summary that you put together today. Is that okay to share?
Yes.
It's on the screen, but yeah. Okay, I can.
And then those other Excel sheets also have more detail, but it's a matter of when does more just get confusing?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It was good for me to look at, but maybe a little too much for everybody at this point.
This
Okay.
kind of was a high level summary of just kind of what we had looked at.
Yeah, essentially it summarizes, this is a summary of what's in there. It's just not breaking each individual line item out.
I think it's very helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
All right. Well, thank you. Keep thinking about it. More questions next meeting, I'm sure. So
Yes, if people come up with some questions or whatever and want to throw them to Sarah and Sarah can get them to me and then I can get responses back to you. So, you know, I want you to make an informed decision is what it comes down to in the end. And I know it's a lot of money and you know, my opinion, and I think Sarah kind of said this earlier, is I think the active is the way to go, but it's the more expensive option. I think it'll get you to a point where you stop talking about the landfill.
Yes.
sounds good. Well, thank you. Nothing. If anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll move on. There's no action on this item. So we're all good. All right. Thank you. We're gonna move on to item number 12, which is discussion with possible action on live action storage easement on Railroad Avenue.
Okay, so just so everybody has a reference point here, this is a part of the business park that we have on Railroad Avenue. So this was served as a part of the EDA project that we did in 2019. And recently, this part of the parcel was sold to Live Action Storage. And they came to us about connecting their sewer system, water and sewer. And the sewer there is really deep. And so, meaning like 20 feet deep, quite deep. And so when they're looking at making the connection, that's a really big excavation. And there's also other utilities in the area. So in him talking with Greg Marsh, who's our utility superintendent, Greg said, well, maybe we should look at getting you connected at the manhole, which is 50 feet off the property line. And I'm going to show you a picture, a very, very rough picture of it. It was Veer Becker giving us a really quick sketch of how we could do it. Let's see here. So they just overlaid this on top of the current drawing, but essentially, I can probably zoom in even more. Essentially what would be happening is, this is the manhole here, and this is his building A, which is going to have water and sewer. And so at first we talked about going like a direct connection straight to it, but what would happen then, while the path is shorter, you now have an area where you would looking for an easement from Live Action on city property, current city property that we want to sell sometime. But if you can see the yellow line here, that actually is the easement that we already have for the sanitary sewer. So the sanitary sewer was never placed entirely in the road right of way because the water and the sewer are on the same side. Usually we split them up, right? And so we already have an easement in that yellow area for our purposes. So that was why we came up with this idea, was like, can we just get you far enough far enough east with your sewer so that then you're just in that same area that there already is an easement, so that for the property to the south, which is not yet sold but will be, there's no further easement area. It's the same easement area. It's just now there's two people that have, or two entities. So that's what we've been working on, and that's what this is. So it's a little bit harder to see. That's why I kind of gave you that context. Essentially, we only have a 15-foot wide easement because we only needed 15 feet to get our sewer in, because we usually have an easement that centers on the pipe. So part of that's already in the right of way. That's why it's only 15 feet. So essentially this would be for Live Action to utilize this area. And then if you look at the actual language here, it just talks about the fact that we have an easement already there, and his right to be able to fix it doesn't necessarily impede our right to fix ours. So basically we both get to operate in that space. I think it's a good solution, and it allows him not to have to excavate so deep, and because there's like a plumber and himself that are probably going to do the work, so this just simplifies things as well. They're not getting in the way of other things that are out there. So yeah, I guess the one part about it would be that we do have, this would be a fee of $250. I don't know if you want to talk to that, Nate, or you want me to?
No, I mean, simply put, I think as Sarah and I talked about this, is that this is a good benefit, and it works well for both parties. Typically when there's an easement requested by a owner, from one owner to the other, the requesting party is the one who takes on the bulk of the work in terms of drafting the easement request and putting together legal descriptions and things like that. But we felt that'd be more prudent for us to just do that ourselves. And as a result, we just asked for a nominal fee from the requesting party to essentially cover some of our expenses in putting this together. And so Chad Olson I reached out to him yesterday and said, are you comfortable with this? And he said, absolutely. I think he just appreciates us taking on the work and him just getting what he needs and continuing to focus on getting this project done. So I spoke to, who we were talking to about this?
VDA?
Yeah, that was probably it. Yeah, we were at the VDA meeting, and the VDA recommended this forward and said, that sounds about right. And I think, Sarah, you maybe mentioned like from a cost perspective, 250 is a good ballpark to work off of. So we didn't really mince the dollar amount. We just felt like some sort of fee was appropriate.
This action doesn't devalue the other parcel of land, like if we were going to sell that to somebody else at any point.
Yeah, that was 100% why we took it to VDA, is because we wanted to make sure we were mindful if we were granting an easement for an adjacent property. Of course, it's city land, but the VDA is the one who has sort of the expertise to say, well, if you do that, then we're going to have a harder time. And Sarah's big note, and I don't know if you can go back to that, Sarah, is that by providing them a sewer easement in an area that's already under sewer easement, there's no additional impact to the property that isn't there already. So a really elegant solution, I thought she found out. So appreciate Sarah's work on that.
And Matt,
Thanks.
he and I
thank
work
Greg,
good
too.
together.
Yeah. All right, other questions? None, I think we're looking to approve this.
This is Seth. I make a motion that we approve easement to Live Action for the sewer access with a nominal fee of $250.
ZG, I'll second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? That doesn't have to be roll call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Sarah, the affidavit, do we need to get that?
You want me to talk about it too? So I did talk to Stephanie right before the meeting, just to make sure that we didn't need to approve it at council.
Oh,
So
you did? Okay.
she just said, and just this is for information, when George went to pull the easement for the city to put all the details in here, he realized that our easement had the easement language, but no figure that showed where the easement was. So he put this together, and which was an error. So essentially, when they submit these to the county, they have a Word document for the text part and then a PDF for the image, and that it didn't both get printed out and submitted. It was kind of like, how did that happen? So this is his way of correcting it. He said, so I didn't talk to him. I talked to Stephanie about whether this needed to go and get approval, and she said it shouldn't need to because it's just a correction from an easement that's already in place, just adding the image. So,
It was
but
the
just so you
decision-
know, and so there we go. Good thing we caught it.
It's cleanup of a mistake that happened back in 2019 when we actually, installed the sewer as part of the EDA grant, which is in a way George correcting his own mistake from 7 years ago.
Right. So it would have all this text, like this is what's registered already. It's just this part here, which I shared with him today. He goes, I don't have that in there. That would be added in this affidavit of corrections. But no action needs to be taken. So he says, or Stephanie says.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to item 13, which is payment of the bills.
Does anybody have any questions on any of those bills that I sent out? Otherwise, finance forwarded it with their approval. There wasn't anything really major to point out.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
I second the motion.
I got a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Todd Kirking,
All right.
Emma,
Aye.
Brad Spaeth,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
and AJ.
All right. Item number 14 is a possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1E, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified business when other competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This is in regards to the 40 acres of VFW land. So before we go into closed session, like we've done a few times, if that's all right, maybe we'll give a brief kind of explanation of why this is back, because it was just on last council's meeting. And is that all right? Or do you want to?
No, I think you're spot on. Do you want me to kick off? or-
Sure.
Yeah, so Keith Yan from the VFW is with us tonight. The VFW has provided a counter proposal that will go into closed session and discuss. And I guess at this point, one of the questions we had is we don't necessarily go into the number that you're asking for, but I think what we're looking for, so we can discuss it in closed session, Keith, is the rationale behind that number. Like where did that number come from, and why is that part of what you're asking for? If you wouldn't mind sharing with that, it just helps provide context for us. And if you wouldn't mind, sir, if you could use the microphone just so our folks online could hear, that'd be great. And it's that.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hey,
Keith is here in person too, so we're gonna let him kick.
oh, all right, perfect. Thank you.
You got to press the
The
person.
button on the right side, middle right side.
There you go.
You're good to go. You got it.
Yeah, you got her.
Light screen, you're good.
I'm not touching.
You got it now.
Okay, you're asking how we came up with the figure. We originally came up with 15,000 acre. That was kind of a starting point. Well, you know, it's wooded, it borders a golf course. It's a pretty nice chunk of property. Now, the reason, you know, we don't necessarily want to sell it. We have to sell it. Because the board members, all up in their 70s, I'm pushing 80. And when we're gone, that property will be taken by the state or national VFW. And it'll be put up for sale, be gone. Our thought is if we could sell it, we could use that money because we're a nonprofit, like to fund the Legion baseball team or K-9 for the sheriff's department. And there's a number of things that the VFW gives money to. Okay, so we had an offer from the disc golf people or Vernon Trails, and I guess the city was going to chip in some. And then my son Luke Yan and his wife were thinking to develop it. And they put in an offer and the board rejected both of them. So now they made an offer of $1,600 a month. And if that doesn't fly, then we'll list it with a realtor. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thanks, Keith. I think part of the question then is like that $1,600 a month, just for our own understanding. Where does that number come from? Is that a number you guys just decided, or?
Right.
Okay.
One of the board members came up with that in comparison to land around the area, like what farmers are running their fields out for or whatever. That's kind of where that came from. Then that would be like for, I'm going to guess 2 or 3 years, and then we'll look at it again.
Any other questions? And I think, I mean, it'd be appropriate to ask some other questions if anybody has them right now before we go into closed session. And if it's not an appropriate question, point at me and I'll try to correct
I
it.
guess I was just going to ask
Go
you
ahead.
with the idea. So there's a proposal that we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Looking at $1,600 a month rental for the entire 40 acres for a set time frame. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And that'll satisfy what you guys are needing for an income on that property for the foreseeable.
It would
time.
definitely go help.
Okay.
Because we want to redo the parking lot, the
Yeah.
blacktop. And the kitchen needs to be updated. There's
Okay.
just different things that need money for.
Okay.
Anything else? Do you have any questions for us before we go into closed session?
I'm speaking for myself personally, you know. I think the people that use the property should come up with, you know, how many citizens in Viroqua actually are out there playing disc golf? Is that a small number or a big number? I don't know. Should the city even be involved with trying to pay for it? I don't know, where's the city at with that?
That's what we're gonna talk about.
Eh,
How
I
much,
mean,
how much
there's,
value did you put in that property?
what's that?
How much, how valuable is that 40 acres to the citizens of rural?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's all, like, again, that's all part of what we talked about in the previous closed sessions and we'll talk about in this new one, right? Because that is a factor for sure. So,
Yeah. No, I would say thanks for coming in, Keith. I mean, me personally, as the administrator, I feel like I have what we need, and we'll probably have more follow-up questions as the group has a chance to talk about it, but
That's fine.
mean-
There's no urgency.
and I think I mentioned to you, and I know I said to Steve, like, your next meeting, you know, when we come out of tonight, we'll have questions and some things that you'll need to take probably to your next meeting. So,
Next, our meeting,
yes,
it's always the third Thursday of the
Thursday.
month, 3 o'clock.
got it. Perfect. Well, thank you for sitting
Thank you
through all of
for
our
the
meeting to,
presentation. Yeah, you tell a lot.
to
How
do
much
that.
help I am, but that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, sounds good.
Keith, my name is Tanya. Hi, I just wanted to personally thank you for coming to the meeting. I have occasionally used the property for walking and hiking and it's a beautiful piece of property. So I just wanted to thank you for coming back and giving us another opportunity.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. All right, so we do not have a motion in a second yet to go into closed session. So can we take a, you know, guys want to take a quick 5-minute break?
Do
and
you,
then we'll-
do you want to go through second period for public comment first?
Sure, let's do that.
I mean, it's up to the group, but
Yep.
we've been doing that recently.
Right. Good point. So before we go into closed session, let's move number 16 ahead to the second period for public comment. Any members of the public have anything they wish to bring forward? Now would be the time. Hearing none, we'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll hop into the closed session. We're going to go back to item 14, which is possible closed session per Wisconsin statute 1985 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified business whenever competitive or bargain reasons require closed session regarding the 40 acres of VFW land. I would
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Steve will second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Emma,
Cindy?
Patrick,
Aye.
Cindy, John,
Aye.
Tanya,
I,
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ.
Aye.
And Todd Kirking.
All right.
We're in closed session.
We are not quite yet. Let me remove a few people into the waiting room. All right, I'm gonna pause the all right, we're back and open. And everybody has left the waiting room.
Breakdown.
ready for a motion?
We're ready to go?
Make
All
a
right.
motion to approve what was discussed in closed session.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tanya, Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ.
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
All right.
Emma,
Aye.
and Todd Spath.
All right. Item 17 is a adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Gotta make a motion, John.
AJ, I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.